Before there was time, before man opened his eyes to the dawn, something unthinkable happened in heaven. A fracture, a whisper, a single thought that would ignite a war older than creation itself. He was called Lucifer, light-bearer, the most radiant of all the angels. His brilliance could ignite the morning. His voice conducted the choirs of eternity. He was perfection adorned in light, walking among the stones of fire that surrounded the throne of God. But perfection has a price. For within the brilliance of light, a shadow began to move. It began with a question, silent, forbidden, electric. Why must I serve? Why must only one sit upon the throne? That single thought, invisible as a breath, was the beginning of darkness itself. From the heavens above, the harmony began to crack. The morning stars no longer sang as one, and in the heart of heaven, love met defiance. The first rebellion was not born in the garden of men, but in the court of angels. Lucifer's wings once shimmered with glory, now they trembled with desire. The bearer of light had looked upon the throne of God and saw not devotion, but envy. What happens when beauty turns against its own creator? When worship becomes ambition, when light itself dares to challenge the source of light? This is not a myth. It is the first crime in the history of eternity, a celestial conspiracy that shattered perfection. And somewhere between glory and ruin, Lucifer ceased to be an angel. This is the untold story of how heaven's brightest star became the ruler of darkness, how pride birthed the first fall, and how that fall still echoes within every soul that struggles between obedience and desire. Welcome to the hidden record of creation. Lucifer, the radiant one, the morning star. His name once echoed through heaven as a song of beauty, wisdom, and light. To gaze upon him was to witness perfection itself, the embodiment of harmony between creation and creator. The prophet Ezekiel described him as the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and beauty, adorned in sapphire, emerald, and gold, walking among the fiery stones that surrounded God's throne. He was not just another angel, he was the reflection of divine artistry. Every movement he made left trails of light like ribbons through eternity. His wings shimmered in hues no human eye could ever name. His voice, oh, his voice could summon galaxies into song. When he led the choirs of heaven, even the stars paused to listen. He was the maestro of celestial worship, the bridge between heaven's glory and creation's awe. But beauty has its shadow, and the closer one stands to the light, the more tempting it becomes to believe the light is one's own. In the beginning, Lucifer's gaze was fixed upon the throne. Every note he sang, every word he uttered, rose like incense to the Almighty. But then came a subtle shift, almost imperceptible. His adoration became admiration. Admiration turned to awareness. Awareness to desire. The angels sang, "Holy, holy, holy," but in his heart, another voice began to whisper, "Why not me?" Lucifer's mind became a battlefield of brilliance and deceit. He began to measure glory as though it could be divided, as though heaven were a crown to be claimed, rather than a flame to be shared. The scriptures say you were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until wickedness was found in you. That wickedness, it was not murder, nor hatred, nor vengeance. It was pride, the oldest sin in the universe, the invisible poison that can dwell even in perfection. He began to believe his light was self-born, that his wisdom, his beauty, his voice were his alone. The mirror of heaven became a prison of reflection, and in that mirror he saw not a servant but a rival. Isaiah's ancient words still tremble with the echo of Lucifer's defiance. "I will ascend into heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation. I will make myself like the Most High." Each "I will" was a hammer striking the foundation of heaven. With every thought, his heart moved further from worship and closer to war. Lucifer's radiance began to twist. His light grew colder, sharper, like glass, reflecting fire instead of warmth. The angels closest to him felt it first, the silence in his song, the pride beneath his praise. Yet they said nothing, for who could question the most glorious of heaven's host? And so it spread quietly, invisibly, a spiritual contagion, cloaked in light. The highest angel was becoming the first deceiver. Lucifer still stood before the throne, but inside him a storm gathered. His beauty became his weapon, His gift became his curse. Perhaps that is the mystery of free will, that even in perfection choice remains. God had made him radiant but not robotic. Lucifer could choose to love or to envy, and one day he chose. That choice would shatter the harmony of heaven, divide the hosts of light, and set in motion the greatest war ever known to eternity. At first it was only a whisper faint, like a tremor beneath the fabric of eternity. A question carried upon wings of light. Why must only one reign? It drifted through the courts of heaven like incense turned to smoke, and in that smoke doubt was born. Lucifer's heart, once a temple of worship, became a throne for self. He began to speak softly to those nearest him, not as a servant but as a visionary. He spoke of freedom, of equality among the divine. He painted rebellion as enlightenment, deception cloaked in brilliance. And the angels listened. Heaven, once filled with perfect harmony, now carried two melodies, one of devotion and one of defiance. Lucifer's words were like honey laced with poison. Why serve forever when we could rule beside him? Why should worship be endless when we too are made of light? It is said that angels are pure intellect, yet even intellect can be seduced by beauty. Lucifer's light dazzled them. His charisma was magnetic, a reflection of the very glory he was rejecting. He spoke not as an enemy of God, but as an interpreter of misunderstood justice. He claimed to elevate heaven even as he sought to divide it. A third of the host of heaven, millions upon millions, believed him. They pledged allegiance to the light-bearer, convinced they were following a higher truth. It was not a coup born in violence, but in persuasion, a theological war of words. Lucifer did not roar, he reasoned, and that is how pride often enters quietly dressed in righteousness. The ancient rabbis once said that pride is the mother of heresy, and in Lucifer it gave birth to both. From the radiance of heaven he declared, "I will ascend above the stars of God." And in that moment worship turned into war. The throne of God blazed like 1,000 suns. The seraphim covered their faces, the cherubim trembled in silence. But Lucifer stood unbowed, his light flickering like a counterfeit dawn. He no longer sang to God, he sang against him. The notes that once lifted heaven now fractured it. And still the most terrifying thing was not his hatred. It was his belief that he was right. He saw himself as reformer, not rebel, as liberator, not betrayer. He called it awakening, but in truth it was the death of innocence. The scriptures say that pride comes before destruction, but in Lucifer's case, destruction was not enough. He wanted dominion, he wanted worship, he wanted the throne. In that sacred realm beyond time where stars are born from sound, heaven trembled. The balance of creation hung upon the choice of one angel. Every being of light stood in silence, waiting, watching to see whether love would bow or war would begin. And then it began, not with a cry, but with a silence so deep it tore through eternity. The music of heaven stopped. The harmony of creation held its breath. Lucifer's crown of light dimmed, and the dawn that never knew darkness suddenly found its first shadow. Was it truly rebellion, or was it the exposure of what had always been buried deep within creation, the capacity to choose? In that instant, free will revealed both its beauty and its danger, for even in heaven, choice demands consequence. Pause for a moment, traveler of light. What if rebellion isn't only in heaven? What if the same whisper that deceived angels still lingers among us, pride disguised as purpose, ambition dressed as light? If this revelation stirs your spirit, share your reflection below. Let your words become part of this living scroll, a testimony against the shadow. And so the war of eternity began, a war not of swords, but of spirits. Next, the heavens will burn, and the throne itself will shake. For the angels of rebellion are rising, and heaven is about to bleed light. There are no words in any language to describe what war sounds like when it begins in heaven. No clash of steel, no cry of armies, only the shattering of harmony itself. Revelation tells us there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The host of light rose as one led by Michael the protector, the unwavering sword of the Most High. Before them stood Lucifer, no longer radiant, but wrapped in a brilliance turned cruel light, twisted into flame. He lifted his voice not to praise but to challenge. His wings spread like a storm across eternity. The air of heaven split open. Flaming swords flashed not of iron but of energy, pure spirit against spirit. What was once music became thunder. The song of worship was replaced by the sound of war. Lightning carved through the sky as angels fell and rose again, locked in battle that neither mortal eye nor mortal mind could bear. Lucifer's cry tore through creation, "I will not bow." His voice carried through galaxies unborn, echoing even into the silence before time. He summoned his followers, seraphim and dominions, who once adored him, to rise against their maker. And the heavens shook. Michael, fierce and resolute, raised his sword, blazing like the sun at its zenith. Who is like God? He thundered a name that shattered deception itself. With every strike he spoke not in anger, but in truth. Each blow was a reminder that power without humility is nothing but self-consuming fire. Lucifer's brilliance flickered. For the first time, the light he carried began to betray him. The radiance that once crowned him now revealed his corruption. The stars he sought to rule became silent witnesses, cold, distant, unmoved by his rage. Ancient texts say the firmament burned like molten bronze. The Book of Enoch describes it as though creation itself wept. The fragrance of heaven, once sweet as divine breath, was now the scent of smoke and sorrow. Then came the moment that silenced eternity. Lucifer fell, not by force alone, but by the weight of his own pride. The very light he claimed as his weapon turned against him, and in a final flash, heaven exhaled. He was hurled down, not merely banished, but cut off. His wings darkened, his crown shattered. The light-bearer became the shadowed one. The dawn star was swallowed by night, and yet in that defeat lay the first mystery of justice. God did not destroy him, he cast him out, for even rebellion has purpose in the tapestry of eternity. Light cannot reveal its power until darkness exists to oppose it. Lucifer plummeted through realms unknown, dragging with him a third of heaven's host beings, who traded worship for war, glory for ruin. And thus began the age of shadows, where the fallen walked the void, seeking vengeance against the light they once adored. But the story does not end with his fall, for from the ashes of heaven's war, a new name would rise, and the light-bearer would become the adversary. Next, we follow him into the abyss, where the morning star becomes Satan. He fell through the firmament, past the cold fires of ancient stars, down into a silence that had never existed before. Heaven had expelled him, but the echo of his name still burned. "How you have fallen, O morning star," the prophets would later whisper, tracing the outline of a wound in the sky. The radiance that crowned him became a consuming flame. Glory turned to ash. Music curdled into a hiss. He was no longer light-bearer. He was adversary. Once his voice braided galaxies into song. Now it sharpened into accusation. He did not lose power, only purpose, and that is the most dangerous power of all, the memory of glory, wielded in hatred. He learned a new language in the abyss, not praise, but charge, not worship, but wound. He would not strike at the throne he could not touch. He would strike at the image of the one who sat upon it. Humanity became his chosen battlefield. The first recorded whisper of the adversary is not a roar, but a question. Has God really said? That voice slithered into Eden like a rumor, with teeth shaping doubt into doctrine. Where the light once unveiled truth, the shadow now braided truth with almost truth, a counterfeit dawn. He could still appear as light, the apostle would later warn, but his illumination leads only to night. In the courts of heaven, he became the accuser, naming our failures, filing charges against fragile souls. In the ruins of earth, he became the tempter, offering crowns, without crosses, wisdom, without obedience, power, without worship. He learned the geometry of the human heart, how to tilt desire 1 degree off-center, until the straight road bent toward a cliff. And the world applauded the bend as progress. Why was he not annihilated? Because mercy is not a weapon, and freedom is not theater. The existence of the adversary is the proof that love does not coerce. The throne did not tremble, it permitted. For light is most luminous against the bruise of dark, and fidelity most radiant when tested by betrayal. Even here, in the horror of the fall, providence was not absent, only hidden like a seed in winter. He gathered names like broken glass, serpent, dragon, devil, the strong one armed, but the truest is simplest, Satan, the opposer. He opposes covenant with seduction, obedience, with spectacle, humility, with empire. He stalks the night between our vows and our appetites, whispering, "Be as gods, but without the God who made you." He cannot unmake what God has made, so he unmoors what God has named. Identity becomes fog, desire becomes law, worship becomes self, and yet beneath every lie there remains a faint, stubborn resonance of the truth we were shaped to sing. If your heart trembles at this, speak it, not as comment but as testimony. Let your words be small torches against a vast dark, and we will walk by their light together. But the abyss was not the end of his descent. For from the depths the adversary raised a kingdom without altar, a throne without mercy, and a promise with teeth. Next we will enter its gates and hear the first decrees of the Prince of Night. Lucifer's fall was not merely an event, it was a revelation. It unveiled a truth that shook heaven and still echoes through earth, that even perfection can fracture when pride dethrones worship. His story is not confined to the ancient heavens. It breathes through time, replaying itself in human hearts and empires. Every kingdom that has risen on the altar of self-exaltation carries the same spark that burned in Lucifer. Babylon, Tyre, Rome, each declared itself eternal, invincible, divine, and each in time collapsed beneath the weight of its own glory. History is heaven's mirror, showing that rebellion never ends. It only changes language. From heaven's courts to the dust of earth, the war continued. Not of flesh and blood, but of will and worship. The battlefield shifted from golden streets to human conscience. Every temptation that whispers, "You deserve the throne," is an echo of that first defiance. Pride, jealousy, self-worship, shadows of the same celestial crime. Yet even in the darkness, light refused to die. The God who cast Lucifer down did not abandon creation to despair. From the ashes of rebellion came the first promise of redemption. Before the foundations of the world, the Lamb was slain. In divine foresight, mercy was prepared before sin was born. That the fall of one angel revealed the heart of an unchanging God. Justice demanded separation, but love demanded salvation. And so began the long plan of restoration, the covenant, the prophets, the cross, each a note in heaven's counter-melody against rebellion. Lucifer fell from light, but the light of the world descended into darkness, willingly to reclaim what pride had shattered. Now the question is no longer about the fall of angels, but the choices of men. Heaven's war did not end, it entered us. Every act of humility heals a fracture in creation. Every surrender of pride reclaims a piece of lost light, and every heart that bows willingly undoes what Lucifer refused to do. But the warning remains. The adversary still walks not as a monster, but as an idea, elegant, persuasive, and familiar. He no longer needs to storm heaven. He conquers by convincing mankind that we can build our own. The fall repeats wherever pride rises higher than reverence. So the story returns to you, the listener. In the stillness between light and shadow, ask yourself, will you mirror the rebellion of the fallen star, or reflect the humility of the morning that never ends? For the light that was cast out has not conquered the light that remains. And though Lucifer's echo lingers, it is drowned by a greater name, one that speaks forgiveness into every darkness. So as this chapter closes, remember the war is ancient, but the victory is timeless. Stay with us, because what comes next is not about angels or rebellion. It is about you, the keeper of light in a world that has forgotten how to shine. From the golden heights of heaven to the shadows beneath eternity, we have followed the path of one who fell not simply to understand his rebellion, but to see our own reflections within it. Lucifer's story is not about darkness winning. It is about how easily light can be forgotten when pride replaces awe. It is a warning, yes, but also a mirror of mercy, because every fall, even the greatest, reveals the depth of a creator who still chooses to love. We are all walking that narrow road between glory and humility, between self and surrender. And in that tension lies the beauty of our faith, the ability to begin again even after we've wandered far from the light. If this story stirred something in you, Share your thoughts, your reflections, your questions below. Let this space become a gathering of seekers of souls still drawn to the mystery. And if you wish to continue this journey through the hidden corners of Scripture, stay with us, like, share, and subscribe, so we may unveil the next truth together. For though one star fell, countless others still rise, and somewhere in that quiet glow, the light remembers your name.